Hello, I am Jeff Stoltzfus. That's Keith over there. He doesn't get a last name, and this is Fantasy Foosball, where we ask the tough questions. Like, why is it YouTube? Shouldn't it be my tube? You know what? I think I just solved that one. Today we are going to explore the Baltimore Ravens depth chart. Just how depthy and how charty does it get? Let's find out. Let's go. Today is not a sponsor of the day is disguises. Need to hide? Disguises can do it. Maybe you're a criminal on the run. Maybe for murdering your ex-girlfriend Pam's Pomeranian, Mr. Chow Chow. Can't find me now, Pam. Not with disguises. Seemed really specific, didn't it? Like unnervingly so. Today we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Trivia: the raven is a type of bird. Peck your eyes out, it will! So I'm going to share my thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens 2021 depth chart, and I'm going to break it down real specific as to each position, but then also a yes, no, and watch list. So you know, who should you even care about? Because some people, I just don't care. So let's get to it. First, we'll start with the quarterbacks, and I'm going to name them all because they all played in 2020 because Lamar Jackson had to poop. It's true, he was late to the field one day because he was pooping. I'm not making fun, everybody poops. He's an athlete, so perhaps he does it a little better than the rest of us, perhaps with a pinch of panache. We'll never really know for sure. That's really between Lamar and Santa. Yes, Santa. You know, Santa watches you poop. You didn't know that? He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He's always watching. Well, what do you expect from a man who illegally penetrates the homes of millions of children every year? Maybe you shouldn't be using baked goods and lactose as some kind of perverse fishing lure to bring in an obese septuagenarian pole dweller. Lamar Jackson. Best damn QB in the league, so good make your nose bleed. And then there's Trace McSorley and Tyler Huntley. Let's take a look and see if Lamar Jackson is properly ranked. Currently, Pro Football Focus has him listed as the number 5 QB between Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. In my league in the 2020 season, based on average points per game, he finished number 7 between Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. So really, pretty accurate so far. For anyone on the fence about Lamar Jackson, he's got a very comfortable high floor as he averaged roughly 67 rushing yards per game. He had some down games in 2020, a bit of boom or bust, but more boom really. And let's take a look at things. His wide receiver core improved. It's the best he's ever had. The ground game remains unchanged as Dobbins was swapped out for Ingram, and that really means nothing for Lamar. And Lamar Jackson has 4 years of NFL experience. Do you know how old he is? No, seriously, guess. Do you think he's 26? You're wrong. He's 25. I lied. He's 24. He's only 24 years old. If I had Lamar Jackson in Dynasty, I would still be feeling pretty cocky about it. Lamar is in his prime, with a good coach on a good team, a solid run game, improved wide receiver core. He's ranked appropriately. I wouldn't reach for him in a draft, but I would want him on my team. Moving over to Trace McSorley. McSorley? Is that his name? McSorley. That sounds horrible. I'll take the McSorley. Hey you, I want a McSorley. Bring me a McSorley. Dunk the McNuggets in the toilet. Anyway, Trace. He is a mediocre thrower with some rushing ability. In a Dynasty league, if you have the space, it might be worth adding him to your roster just in case Lamar gets trapped in a labyrinth or something. So, looking at the QBs, of course yes to Lamar, and no to everyone else. Switching over to the running back position, we've got J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Tyson Williams, and Nate McCrary. So let's take a look at Just Kidding Dobbins. PFF has him ranked as the RB15, which honestly to me seems a little low. I really like him. You really can't compare him perfectly to his 2020 season because he didn't really get fully involved until after week 11. But if you look after week 11, in my league at least, he finished as the RB8 on average points per game. I think he's a stud on a run-first team with a good offensive line. What hinders him from being ranked higher? Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards. Gus the Bus Edwards. He's obviously a backup, but he's got value. How much, you ask? That's what I'm doing right now. Let's talk about that. They do get him involved. He's a good RB. He's got a different running style. He's more of a pounder, but he's got speed. He can help wear down a defense, which is good for Dobbins too. Depending on your league, in 2020 he had 5 games where he had double-digit points, over 700 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. He has independent value as a bye-week filler, or if someone else on your team happens to be down with injury. You never know when you're going to get good games from him or when he's just kind of so-so on the fringe, but he's still got value. He's worth having. Justice Hill, on the other hand, not a bad RB, but he's just not involved enough to be relevant. Tyson Williams, undrafted free agent from 2020. He's kind of like a poor man's Gus Edwards. Nate McCrary, on the other hand, who I had no idea of until this video, an undrafted free agent from 2021. Not a lot of tape on this guy, but what I saw actually looked pretty good. He's got power. He's shifty. I'd really like to see what he does in the preseason. So no to Hill and Williams, yes to Dobbins and Edwards, and I would add McCrary to the watch list. Oh, let's get to the wide receiver room. We've got Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman, Marquise Brown, Devin Duvernay, Miles Boykin, Tylan Wallace, James Prochet, and Deon Cain. Sammy Watkins. Holy Sammy Watkins. He's ranked really low, like after later round rookies low, between Paris Campbell and Jalen Reagor. Would I take him at that low a cost? Yeah. But I wouldn't feel good about it. I'd feel very dirty and have to take a shower. I'd take a fantasy shower. Look, Sammy's got ability. He has value. But he's just not the guy here. So who is? Rashad Bateman. Pick number 27 in this year's draft. And I like him a lot. I think he's the most talented wide receiver on the team right now. Whether it takes all year for him to climb the depth chart, and I don't think it will, I think he is inevitable. He's got the talent, he's got the size, the speed, and he's only 21. Grab him in Dynasty. Grab him late in redraft on speculation alone for this year. If you want to see tape on Rashad Bateman, don't even bother looking at the 2020 tape. He was only half-heartedly into it. He wasn't going to play, then he did, then he stopped. Watch the 2019 tape, and you will be wowed. Marquise Brown. Hollywood! He's got speed for days, son, but he is injured for days, son. He is ranked outside the top 25 at the position, between Devontae Parker and Antonio Brown, 2 spots higher than Curtis Samuel, who I'd rather have. He's valuable, so he can't be ignored, but probably won't be on my team. Devin Duvernay. Oh, the Devin Duvernay conundrum. What to do with him? Loads of ability. Buried in the rankings between Preston Williams and rookie Imar Smith-Marset. There's a return role for him. He scored a touchdown in 2020 off a kickoff. The problem I have with Devin Duvernay is not, is he good? I think he's amazing. The problem is, if they have faith in him, why did they draft 2 more receivers this year? Bateman, I understand. He's the best thing since sliced bread. But then they drafted another guy in the 4th round. If they have such confidence in Devin Duvernay being heavily involved, why draft another guy? If you have the space on your Dynasty roster to stash him, I would. The problem is, on a run-heavy team that features the tight end in the passing game, Duvernay is at best the number 3 option and at worst a bit player taking up space on your roster. He was one of my favorites from the 2020 draft. I still like him, and I'm going to keep him if I can. Miles Boykin. He is the odd man out here. He's got tons of size and ability, but there's just nothing here for him. He was drafted in 2019. He might be in consideration this year or next year to sneak at the end of your bench in Dynasty in hopes that he gets traded midseason, or after his contract ends next year, find a better fit in free agency. But there's just nothing for him in Baltimore. Tylan Wallace was drafted in the 4th round of this year's draft. He's got decent speed, good hands, fights through traffic, good at contested catches. Just feel like there's something special about this kid. I have no interest this year in redrafting him. Dynasty at the right price, probably. Because I like the player, I just don't like the landing spot. James Prochet and Deon Cain. Both are just of note, but that's it. Yes to Watkins, Bateman, Brown, Duvernay, and Wallace. No to Boykin, Prochet, and Kane. Over to the tight end position. Mark Andrews is ranked as the number 4 tight end between Darren Waller and TJ Hawkinson. But that being said, there is a teardrop for the simple fact that Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller's offenses run through them, whereas Andrews is just featured. Then there's Nick Boyle. He is just a decent number 2 tight end. Sometimes involved, but you're not drafting him. And then there's Josh Oliver, which is an interesting name to see pop up. He was drafted in 2019, early 3rd round pick by the London Jaguars. He's got good size and speed. He was comped to Hayden Hurst, but he's never been a thing because of injuries. He's had a fractured foot, fractured back, hamstring strain, green thumb, itchy butt, I don't know. Eric Tomlinson is just a guy. So yes to Mark Andrews and no to everyone else. Listed at edge, we have Daelin Hayes, Jayson Oweh, and Tyus Bowser. Daelin Hayes is a 2021 draft pick. He was taken in the later 5th round. He's got good coverage ability, and he's made some interceptions in his time in college. Jayson Oweh, drafted at the end of the 1st round this year. His tape was good, but his testing is what shot him up draft boards. His metrics are nuts. If he gets coached up well, he can be something. I don't know exactly what they're doing here, but he was an edge defender taken in the 1st round, and Matt Judon is gone for New England. So maybe Oweh is the replacement? And then there's Tyus Bowser. He's an important part of the defense, and he's a good football player, but I don't think he's fantasy relevant. So that's no to Bowser, and I would add Oweh and Hayes to my watch list. At linebacker, we have Patrick McQueen, Malik Harrison, and LJ Fort. Did I say fart? Fort. Like a tree fort. Queen and Harrison were drafted in 2020, both with great promise and athleticism. Neither put up great IDP numbers, but I'm still high on them. Fort is good, but he's nothing for fantasy, really. So I'd say yes to Queen and Harrison, no to Fort. And Fart. At DB, there's a number of guys I was unfamiliar with, but basically it's Marlon, Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and Chuck Clark. Chuck Clark being the safety. Marlon Humphrey finished in the top 10 of average points in my league in 2020. Marcus Peters is okay, and Clark finished just inside the top 25. So yes to Humphrey and Clark, no to Peters. There's a lot of good fantasy football pieces you should be invested in here with the Baltimore Ravens. As for the Ravens themselves, I think they're a good team and a strong division with a good coach. Thank you so much for watching, and please hit the like and buttons and subscribing and the bell and all that stuff on the way out. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
Habitat. The elephant is irrelevant.